Greetings, brethren. I'm going to make a second recording today because, well, quite honestly, I took more pans this morning, panestero, and the teacher within the pans is quite something. It is relentlessly beautiful and insistent and clear, and it causes me to really pay attention. Like, I don't want to miss a single thing. But I was making my breakfast, and in the process of making the breakfast, after concluding my first hour-long recording this morning, an entirely second instruction was just flowing through me about fear. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. You know, the old statement that there is nothing to fear but fear itself, as cliche as it is actually stupendously important to consider, because fear is literally the breeding ground for almost every other existing destructive tendency of mankind. There's nothing to fear but fear itself is so absolutely true, because it is a nest, it is a breeding ground for every other disintegrative mindset that humanity embodies on every level. And once the hooks of the frequency of fear get its tentacles in a person's mind and feeling, there is literally no limit to the amount of nightmarish scenarios that will attach to a person's consciousness. Because the moment a person harbors a vibratory frequency of fear, they literally open their door wide into their feeling, their emotional body, which is an integral aspect of our consciousness. You open that door wide to the entire collective destructive force that vibrates around this planet. And obviously there's degrees of that. Just sampling fear at a very, let's just say, once you go below the baseline of love and begin to lower one's frequency into the realms of fear, there's entry level levels of fear, and then there's medium fear, and there's extreme fear. Those extreme levels of fear is when people can have psychotic breaks, okay? Paranoia. Well, paranoia is actually probably a level 2 experience of fear. Level 1 is just what's called that standard fear. Fears of superficial things, right? A fear of not having food, the fear of not having money for this or that, the fear of what the neighbors might think, the fear of we might get fired from our job, just superficial shit. That's level 1 fear. Level 2 fear is when a certain paranoia can set in, where the insidious nature of fear starts to penetrate the mind to a degree where we start thinking and projecting upon other individuals what they might be thinking about us, whether it be true or not, or that the government is after us, all that level shit of paranoia. It's not necessarily wrong, that paranoia can sometimes reveal some truth, but the problem is when a person's in a state of fear and accessing truth, they're not going to process it in the proper manner. But that's a whole nother conversation. Let's just talk about fear for a second. That is a breeding ground for every other falsehood in life. Because the moment one fears, like I said, you are wide open to the entire distortion of human consciousness that exists. Because whether we want to believe it or not, most of mankind is completely governed by a constant state of fear of this thing or that thing, health-related fears, financial-related fears, fearing people are not going to be successful, fearing what the family might think, fearing never having children, fearing never finding a spouse, or fearing never moving up the corporate ladder, fearing that our lives are going to be empty and without meaning and purpose. It's just a relentless, if you really analyze the majority of the thought processes that go through an average human's mind, you're going to find that you can trace it back to some form, aspect of fear. And there's a societal mass psychosis that is occurring where we feel that these fears are, the fear is serving a purpose. We are taught that fear serves a purpose, that it is intelligent to be fearful of certain things, that it is normal to be fearful of these things, that it is our duty to engender these fears almost. There is actually societal pressure that if we are not properly fearing certain things, then we are quite abnormal, and society might look askance at us. That is how insidious fear is. It has become an integral part of society. It is in our advertisements. Every pharmaceutical advertisement is engendering fear that if you're not taking their drug, that you're probably going to be experiencing some form of lack or limitation or disease. If you're not taking this or that supplement, if you're not, doing this or that exercise, that all these detrimental effects are going to happen. There is truth to some of that, but that's a whole nother tangent. But the fact is, we can literally transform, if you want to get to the ultimate depth of things, we can transform every aspect of our physical existence through our consciousness. That is the ultimate truth. But the way humanity goes about it, in its placebo-like usage of consciousness, is that we will take this or that supplement, we will do this or that exercise to build muscle, we will do this or that thing for, proper nutrition. But the ultimate aspect of this is it's all just a workaround because of our lack of understanding. Do you know what I mean? Because when a person completely conquers every last fear in themselves, you become a completely responsible steward again of our natural state of being, which is what individuals have represented on this planet many different ways and different time periods. The most recent being and the most magnificent representation of this in our recent history was Jesus. He is a representation of what one becomes when they have removed every last vestige of fear from their life. There is nothing that could have touched him if he didn't want it to. No toxin, no disease, no ill health, no lack of finances. Anything he desired was at his disposal on the instant, because he was no longer vibrating at a state of existence that could even possibly engender any level of lack or limitation or disease. He was vibrating at such an intense level of frequency that those who understood what they were doing could literally just touch him and be completely cured of every physical ailment. This is an extreme example. I say extreme, but it's like, this is normality. Boy, I'm really going down a tangent. My whole purpose of talking about fear was actually to discuss mycology. Because I was thinking about, when I was making my breakfast, those individuals right now who are basically growing these psychedelics, who have learned the skills of a mycologist, are really having to conquer a certain level of fear. And I'm saying this as my soul saluting these individuals, because they have to conquer a certain level of fear to do what is deemed illegal in this day and age that could imprison them. I'm not going to completely disregard the fact that some of these individuals are doing it sheerly out of profit, that they actually have very maybe little or no concern about the actual benefits this is going to bring upon the human species as it becomes released into prevalent use upon society. There are those individuals who don't know any better. They're just doing it out of profit. But some actually have an inkling of understanding about the impact this is going to have upon society and in the manner of which I'm speaking of it. And so I just wanted to actually salute these individuals who have determined that they have a purpose in life greater than just monetary gain, to perpetuate the cultivation of a medicine that is going to raise the consciousness of the entire human species. And that is not an insignificant thing, because these individuals have to face a certain pressure of fear at all times to be doing this. And they have to surmount it on a daily basis, because no matter what, there's an undercurrent of concern when one's freedom and one's peaceful existence could be threatened by an unillumined government. It's not an easy thing for most of these individuals. And so I want to recognize that these souls are pushing through a certain level of fear. And even the ones who may be doing it for that are completely motivated by just profits or, gaining, monetary wealth, if that is their only motive, they're actually still contributing to the future benefit of humanity on this planet, surprisingly enough. These individuals won't be as rewarded as those who do it for, less selfish purposes, but they're actually still contributing to the awakening of mankind. So I just wanted to share that perspective of how, in this field of psychedelic cultivation, that there's a whole nother level of fear that has to be surmounted. And that takes a certain constitution within an individual to maintain a ceaseless pressure of opposition to that force of fear that's always lurking. Whether these individuals know it or not, they are exuding a pressure against that fear. Some of them have maybe never analyzed this in this manner. But this is what is occurring. This dynamic we have in our consciousness is ceaseless. It's just a thing that mankind doesn't understand. What they call divinity, or they call normal life, is literally one and the same. We are all utilizing this power of consciousness at all times. It cannot be stopped. It has to be used every waking second of our lives. It is ceaseless. It is eternal. It cannot be hindered in any form or any manner. Consciousness is always acting. And when we do not understand how to utilize it utilize it to properly align ourselves with the beneficial and harmonious aspects of life, then we will subjugate ourselves through its misuse. The art of understanding the consciousness, in their interaction of consciousness, is one just learns that when they align their consciousness with what we term as divine things. My stream of thought was interrupted by my wife, so I'll restart. I'll try to get back on track here. What I was trying to impart was the flow of consciousness cannot be stopped or hindered or blocked. We have to learn that it is a steady, ceaseless stream at all times. And if we align it with what we term as divine or harmony, then we quickly learn we receive every good thing we could possibly imagine in our lives. We receive all the financial supply we require. We receive the shelter. We receive the food. We receive that proper service to life, an occupation that benefits humanity. We receive all these things naturally when we align ourselves with the harmonious or divine side of life. When we raise the needle, slightly above the balance point. But the moment we drop below the balance point, that's the realm of fear. That's the breeding ground of all disease, of all lack, of all limitation. Trying to convey this visualization of understanding. It seems like it's all magical and mystical, or, the spiritual side of life is hard to determine. But in reality, it is as simple as anything. A child can understand the reality and the truth of these things. Somehow this great mystique and mysticism has shrouded the utter simplicity of life. It's actually just another form of control. There was an original purpose of things having to be hidden. I mean, there was a period of time when people were being put to death for thinking or even talking about these things. They would be put to death by the various religious fanatics of whatever time period in the past. Because that's the unfortunate aspect of religion. It turns people into fanatics. And they base their religion on partial truths that also get mixed in with a lot of untruth. A lot of fear and a lot of control. Because religions only exist to do one thing, and that is to be an intermediary between the average Joe and the divine. They have inserted themselves as a corporate business entity, as an intermediary to financially control and to control by the force of authority. This is the unfortunate situation that humanity finds itself in with religion. And it stems from the fear. This all stems and grows out of a fear of inadequacy. Actually, let's expand on that inadequacy, because a lot of religious leaders may have at one time a powerful religious experience, but in their weakness, the magnificence of life that they feel or may experience, in their weakness they can feel inadequate. That's what the experience of fear will tell the consciousness. It will say, you are not worthy. That's how fear will translate these occurrences. It will tell the consciousness that you are imagining things. You are not worthy. Do not dare think of these things or speak of these things, because people will look at you crazy. This is how fear transforms these powerful experiences and makes people fear or feel inadequate and weak and scared. Fear is truly the only thing we need to be concerned about, because it comes in so many different variables. They wear so many different masks in our life that if you look at the very essence of everything that disturbs us in our life, there is some aspect of fear tied to it. And again, this is something that psychedelics can reveal so fast to mankind. It can hold this mirror up and show the consciousness these fears that must be disintegrated in such a powerful fashion that it can be quite shocking to people. But I'm not going to go too far down these tangents. I really, once again, just wanted to make a quick shout out and salute to all my fellow mycology brethren who are actually endeavoring to perpetuate this dawn of awakening for mankind, whether they know it or not, and that they're doing this by pushing through that constant pressure of fear to make this happen. Again, whether they know it or not, this is what's happening. And that takes a certain strength of character. That is a strength of character that can be built upon. That strength of character within these individuals can be built upon as a foundation if they look at it properly and see it for what they're doing. Because this process of conquering the fear can be expanded indefinitely to allow oneself to travel to tremendous heights of understanding. This is a fundamental essence, a fundamental foundation for awakening and being capable of receiving powerful instruction from within, from the teacher within the fungi itself, or one's, higher self, or even others. There's many divine aspects in life that are just waiting to instruct us. They are waiting for the individual to raise their frequency high enough that their instruction can even be properly interpreted. Because that's the situation of things. We only can receive the instruction we are capable through our vibration of understanding. Life cannot bring us. It will not teach us anything that we are incapable of understanding. It serves no purpose to the individual to hear something so beyond their level of comprehension. Life will not do that. It is not stupid. It knows exactly what we vibrate at every second of our existence. It is intelligent beyond all comprehension. And removing fear is the absolute certain path to the raising of one's frequency, to receive every good thing in life. So, with that, I again will sign out. I wish everybody tremendous success in removing every last vestige of fear and all of its insidious tentacles out of their life. All right, blessings to all.